I'm building a snowboarding game that could best be described as SSX Tricky meets Mario Kart, so I'll definitely need to build some ski slopes. In fact, that's probably going to be a large portion of the level design. Before we get into it, I do want to thank everyone for their feedback on the game idea, and I'm happy to report that the feedback was mostly positive, which means unless something changes, I'll be moving forward with the game. My early prototyping, I only used a plane at an angle, which isn't going to work. There's a problem though. I have no idea how to build ski slopes in Unity or any other game engine. Having ski slopes in a snowboarding game, I mean, it's mildly important, right? Since I knew absolutely nothing about Unity's terrain tools, I figured I'd start with some YouTube tutorials. They were great, they provided a lot of good info about the terrain tools, but honestly, the tools, they're kind of difficult to use if you don't have experience with them. Spoiler alert. At this point, I had very little experience using them. I needed to make quick and dirty progress in this stage of the prototyping, so I didn't really want to be bogged down with learning how to sculpt a mountain from the ground up. I'm not that good of an artist anyway, so it's probably going to look like dog. I needed a plan B. Also, before I committed to a solution, I had to consider the impact the terrain was going to have on my game's performance. Some may say, it's a little too early to worry about performance at this point. However, several years back, I made a tiny little mobile game. I had this genius idea that I'm going to fill the background with over 100 little happy trees, each rotated just slightly differently for that extra artistic touch. It took hours. It was beautiful, it was amazing. I hit play and I got 10 frames per second, with nothing but trees and an empty scene. Yeah, that's when I learned the hard way that I need to always be considering how the game design might impact the game's performance. So for my snowboarding game, I knew I couldn't make some massive open world terrain without tanking the frame rate. Instead, I decided to keep the terrain small, but chain multiple pieces together to create a long ski slope. This way, the world would feel big, but the game wouldn't run like dog. Now that I had the terrain sized for performance, I needed to turn the terrain into a real mountainside. Thankfully, I had found a Udemy course to procedurally generate mountain terrain. I'll drop a link in the description below if you're interested. Using what I learned, I wrote some editor functions to shape my terrain pieces into a mountainside. Okay, I can work with this. Now, I just needed some actual ski slopes. Remember how I struggled with the terrain tools before? Well, now I had to carve paths into an angled mountain. Super fun. I thought, what if I carved the paths before tilting the terrain? This way, I could lean on the minimum terrain height to keep the paths level. That might work, but I also had to make sure the turns weren't ridiculous. If I messed this up, players would be flying off cliffs at 50 miles per hour. And as fun as that sounds, maybe I shouldn't start there. Since I didn't want to overcomplicate things with splines, I made a simple visual grid system. This way I could map out logical ski paths by simply connecting the dots and without creating death traps. Now that I had a mountainside with ski slopes carved in, all I needed to do was tilt the terrain up to an angle, add some happy little trees, set up some spawn points, and voila! Now I have a ski slope. The great thing is I can simply repeat this process to add more levels. In the future, I want to add big jumps and drop-offs to make things more exciting, but for now, I have what I need to create a solid vertical slice with proper trails, turns, and twists. Thanks so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and if you're feeling generous, please feel free to support me on Patreon. Remember, I love you, Jesus loves you, I'll see you on the next video.